Morning Joe, weekday mornings from 6 to 9 on MSNBC.
The search for an answer to the question why continues for the Newtown, Connecticut massacre. New information this morning that gunman Adam Lanza apparently wanted to become a Marine. Danbury's News-Times reports that if that didn't happen, he wanted to join another branch of the military, but his mother squashed those plans because Lanza didn't like to be touched. Profilers, even a geneticist, are working with investigators in search of an explanation. Adam Lankford, a criminal justice professor at the University of Alabama, has studied the psychology of mass killers as well as those of terrorists and wrote about the similarities this week in a New York Times op-ed. Professor, good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Your piece was titled, "What Drives Suicidal Mass Killers?" and you wrote, "For years, the conventional wisdom has been that suicide terrorists are rational political actors, while suicidal rampage shooters are mentally disturbed loners. But the two groups have far more in common than has been recognized." What do they have in common, Professor?
Well, they have a tremendous amount in common. Underneath it all, it's the desire to kill and be killed. But really, I point to three major factors: mental illness and suicidal desires, perceived victimization. They feel like their pain is someone else's fault and they've been oppressed or bullied. And the third factor is they want attention, they want social recognition, and they try to get that by these attacks that will presumably, after their deaths, result in fame and glory.
So ultimately, are there reasons usually pretty intensely personal? I'm thinking about the fact that there are other reports, for example, that Adam Lanza, who was apparently close to almost no one but his mother, that she had been traveling more. There were some reports that she was talking about potentially having him institutionalized. Are the reasons, when you get down to the core of it, often deeply personal and not some bigger agenda?
Absolutely. That's really a great point, and it's a point that's often missed. You know, these people often want to be part of something bigger. They want to seem more important than they are, so they cling to some larger politics or ideology. But if you look at their lives, you see very clearly that something goes terribly wrong. They can't cope with it. They blame their problems on someone else, and then they lash out for personal reasons.
You also found something chilling that one of the Columbine killers, Eric Harris, wrote in his journal. Tell us about that and what it tells you that helps you understand sort of the psychology of all this. Sure.
Well, I have the exact quote here, and this is something that Eric Harris wrote in his journal 3 years before 9/11. He said that he would like to, quote, hijack a hell of a lot of bombs and crash a plane into New York City with us inside firing away as we go down. Now, as you said, that's chilling, it's eerie. When you hear a quote like that, you can really no longer deny the connection between these rampage shooters and suicide terrorists. And it seems pretty clear that if Eric Harris had been influenced by Islamic fundamentalism, he would have wanted to be one of those pilots crashing a plane into the World Trade Center.
The other question so many people have, Professor, and I don't know if there'll be an answer, is why that school? He did apparently go there for a brief time, but that was years ago. And those early reports that his mother was a teacher there were untrue. Why target little kids?
Well, one of the things when you do this kind of comparative analysis between suicide terrorists on the one hand and rampage shooters on the other hand is you can start to learn about both groups more accurately. And what I would say is that when you see suicide terrorists, they often target random innocent strangers, even children, to get that attention. And what I would speculate here is that Adam Lanza knew that by targeting random innocent children, he'd get a lot of attention as well.
What differentiates someone, the vast majority, obviously, of people who commit suicide and don't hurt others, and someone who commits suicide after one of these rampages?
I think the biggest issue there is this perceived victimization. So the sense that, again, your pain is someone else's fault, and the desire to blame other people for that. I guess I would say you know, we see that in both these kinds of cases. So suicide terrorists usually blame their problems on Western infidels, even their inner pain on Western infidels, on the Israeli government. And rampage shooters blame their pain on their boss, their coworkers, their mother, the school system, and so on and so forth.
Adam Lankford, it was a fascinating op-ed in the New York Times. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on.